over here. So hello everyone, welcome to Service Design Drinks with Adam. Adam and and Anna.
Hi.
And yeah, we're going to have a great fireside chat, a virtual fireside chat. Behind you on the camera, there is a fire, we promise.
Nice.
And yeah, we're going to have a great, ask them some really nice questions, have a bit of a laugh, hear some stories, cry, bond emotionally, and I'm sure everything will be fantastic. By the end of it, we will, of course, come up with some crazy cardboard prototypes. Is this a jam? No, it's not a jam. Sorry, maybe no cardboard prototypes.
Well, the post-its.
We will learn how to use post-its today.
Excellent.
Yeah, so it's fantastic. Let's go on. So, of course, this is Service Design Drinks. Drinks for us can be any kind of drink. Please at least drink water. We like to drink sparkling water. Yes, here we go. Cheers. And that is the first point of business. And we have some ground rules that we'd like to welcome everyone with. So we're very inclusive. Anyone's welcome from all around the world. And as you are joining from all around the world, we would love you to introduce yourselves, at least say hello, where you're from, how you found out about this event, and I don't know, your favorite type of sausage. And we love to meet people of all different backgrounds. We would also like to help you level up or help you as designers in a design community. This is a place for sharing and learning. So if you have any great links that you want to share or any book recommendations or anything like this, please also write those down. And also if you would like to have a chance at speaking, or you have something that you are passionate about sharing with us and with the community, then please also just reach out to us and we can arrange something.
Or nominate someone who you think should speak.
Yeah.
Every time we present this, this is a chance for people to get practice. So sometimes we have a short talk and then a main kind of speaker, and you can practice your speaking and help level up in that way. But we hardly ever get anyone taking us up on that. So maybe nominate someone. That's a better idea. So you don't have to do it, but you say, hey, get this person to talk, and then we'll pester them.
Yeah. And we can also do a fireside chat, so they don't have to prepare much as well. All right. So the team is 5 of us. I'm Adam B. Cochran here in the middle. But firstly, we have
Matti. Hi, everyone.
Who's a designer at Fjord. And then we have
Dee. Hi, everyone.
Who's currently freelancing at the moment. Also, we have our 2 parents, Mela and Gabor, who can't join us at the moment, but they're with us in spirit. And
they're not our parents. They are parents.
They are parents. Yeah, they're not our parents. Sorry.
They look really young.
We are
Young.
Yes. All right. Good one. Glad we got that out of the way.
Make him proud.
All right. So, and as we mentioned before, we have 2 amazing guests who I'm very, very excited to hear some stories from. I remember my first chat with Adam was from one of the jams, and seeing his face on the big screen, and we'll ask him
face.
Big face.
It's a big face
on the big screen.
COVID face
on the big screen. And getting some crazy theme from one of the jams. And I remember meeting Anna in Warsaw from the Jams, and also having a few drinks there as well, I would say. Yes. So it's good. It's so glad that we have them here. They're fantastic people, and I'm sure we'll be laughing a lot later on. All right. So let's get started. Oh, wait. That was a spoiler. You did not see that.
Oops.
All right, so we're back. Yes.
More of that.
So, yeah, let's get started. So I guess for all those people playing at home and people that don't know you, like my partner who might be in the list somewhere, and aren't familiar with the jams or service design, can you just give us a brief introduction of who you are and what you do?
Sure.
And Anna.
Yeah.
Anna.
So hi, my name is Anna Bekš. I am originally from Slovenia, Ljubljana, but just recently moved to Germany, Nuremberg. I am a service design facilitator. My background is in design. I recently started doing my master's on service innovation. And I'm also a co-founder of Service 8. My other co-founder is also here. Hi, Anna. I'm a freelancer, and I've recently joined the CoCreation School with Adam.
Sounds cool. So who is Adam?
I'm Adam. I'm the pretty one, obviously. But I work helping large organizations change the way they approach problem solving and innovation. And some people call that service design or design thinking or innovation or human-centered design or customer experience or holistic UX or marketing 4.0 or all kinds of different things. But basically, it's about challenging the way people address challenges and helping them change to be more like that. So I've been doing this for many, many years, been calling it service design or similar words throughout the last 15 of those. And people know me because of the book, This is Service Design Doing, which we didn't see earlier flashed on the screen. But yeah, there we go. Fantastic, which I co-wrote with 305 other people. There were four main authors. Okay. There were four main authors and 301 other contributors in that book. And also I co-initiated the Global Service Jam, which is a big global sort of hackathon type thing of service design thinking, which takes place every year around the world in about 150 cities simultaneously. And at the weekend, I like to hit my friends with sticks.
That is
Yeah,
true.
but I did want to ask you about the stick hitting thing, because that's actually something that it's quite an interesting topic. What is the stick hitting thing?
It's very silly. It's for people with no friends. At the weekend, we go out and we dress up in funny clothes and armor and stuff, and we medieval camps, and we smack each other around and cook things and drink and have fun generally. It's called the SCA. It's a worldwide medieval club, and I would stay away if I were you. It's a bunch of weirdos.
And about the book, about the contributors, my name is actually first on the list, which means I contribute.
Woo!
Excellent.
And,
Excellent.
If you're even the draft later, you can get it from the correct Adam.
Yes. And if you get the, for example, the Japanese version of the book, yeah, then you can find out what your name is in Japanese,
Ooh,
or in Chinese, if you like, in the Chinese
cool.
version. Oh,
I'm glad that I invited you guys. This was enough for me. I think we can.
they can go. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so some quick fire questions for those playing along at home. Oh, if you want to ask Adam and Anna a question, not let us ramble and make weird jokes all the time, please put your questions in the chat and we'll be sure to ask them. So some quick fire questions. What's your favorite meal to have when you're sad or want to celebrate? Adam first.
Fish fingers, mashed potato, and sweet corn. Fish sticks if you're American, for those fishy rod-shaped things.
Anna?
I love those.
I would go with tiramisu.
Mm.
Lots of it, like the whole thing.
Coffee.
When were you first labeled as a service designer and why? Anna?
Okay, when was I first?
When did you first label yourself as a service designer and why?
I would label myself as the service design facilitator more than a service designer. But I guess back in 2014-15, when we co-founded the Institute, it's an easy way to say.
Okay.
It's not a term I use very often to describe what I do, unless I'm around other service designers. I find I don't like this term and it puts people off. But we first started, for example, going to the service design conference back in 2010, 29, 28. We were thinking about these things as well under different names around then. And I use whatever word my client or the person I'm speaking to uses. I can be a design thinker, a service designer, innovator, a manager, whatever.
Okay. If you were able to invite anyone to dinner, alive or dead, but not family, because we all love our family, who would it be and why?
I would have to go with Nikola Tesla.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah, just I read a book about his autobiography recently, and he was a special man.
Why? What's the things you're most interested in?
I was pretty amazed. I didn't know, but he was actually very ill. He was a very ill person. He had a lot of health issues. So, for instance, he would not be able to work for a year or so. And then he would get these bursts of creativity and doing, and then back nothing. And it's just interesting to follow his story, like from childhood, and then what happened with Edison and everything else. Very, very inspiring.
All right. Well, Adam,
Yeah.
try and top that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, tough one. So if we're being realistic, David Attenborough, I actually met him twice. He used to be a zoologist and he was absolutely charming. So I'd love to have more time with him before he leaves us. He's getting very elderly. But if I'm being unrealistic, this is a very, very niche answer, but I'm really, really interested in the history of the 6th century. And there is one writer who writes about that, a contemporary writer, a guy called Gildas, who is writing about what's going on around him around about the year 500, 530. And he is incredibly vague. So I want to go back to meet this guy and slap him and say, tell us what you're actually talking about. Yeah. Don't be so damn vague. Enough of the metaphors. Tell us what's going on. Sorry. Bit of a bleak bunch, that one.
Sounds like there's anger within there, Adam.
There's some anger. Gildas Cambriensis, I've got your number.
All right. What is the strangest job that you've ever had whilst on your journey to becoming a service designer?
Well, I worked in a factory where I would put, those little sample shampoos into magazines.
Wow. That is.
Yeah.
Can you still get free samples?
I wish. Yeah, but that was interesting. I learned the system, how to do it very quickly because you were paid by the amount of shampoos you could get in. So it was actually pretty well paid.
Okay.
Put them all in the same magazine. I've had some very strange jobs. I've worked on a pig farm. I've sold carpets. I've done all kinds of things. I'm also an actor, a singer, a stripper, these kind of things as well. But I think perhaps the weirdest job that I still use a lot is that I used to be the head of security in a Hells Angels pub. And I learned a lot there about conflict resolution and avoidance and seeing other people's points of view and trying to move people along what's not the line of resistance, but trying to find a way that we can find a compromise or a thing that we're both happy with to move towards a peaceful solution in that case.
And it seems like you're still writing books about that experience today. There was no, okay.
So you broke up in mid-joke. You broke up in mid-joke, sorry.
Next question.
And moving on, anyway. When you were a kid, when you were younger, Adam, not that you are a kid still, but when you were a kid or when you were younger, what did you want to be? And now, if you weren't a designer, what would you be doing?
I wanted to be a vet. Again, the animal thing, zoology. I studied at university. I was really interested in biology and life sciences and animals, especially ones that can chase you and you can chase them back. Well, I have two jobs because I'm still also an actor. I run a theater in Nuremberg and do various sort of artistic things like singing and stuff as well. So I have my two jobs, and I think that the balance might shift if I were to do it again. Because you never know what ends up working, so that would work. I'd like to be an archaeologist as well, because I'd go back in the 6th century and slap that guy, this thing. Yeah. Pick him up and slap him.
All right. And Anna?
Strangely enough, I wanted to be a lawyer. I watched too much Ally McBeal, and I thought that was how the lawyer life it is. But I guess today, if I weren't doing this, I would love to work with NASA or something, like universe, space, that kind of exploration stuff would be amazing.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I would have to concur with you. That would be an amazing job. All right. So, to round off this little introduction section, you guys have known each other for quite some time. First impressions matter the most. That's why I always look good. And what is your first impression of each other, Anna, Adam?
Well, the first time I saw Adam was on a big screen at big screen at one of the jams. And I don't really remember what was my first impression of him, but I remember the first time I attended the jam in Nuremberg. I think it was 2016 or something. And I was really pissed and disappointed because it was nothing what I would have expected. I thought I'm going to be there and learn from the best. And then we basically had to facilitate the whole damn thing ourselves.
So, often disappoint people.
Can you explain what the jam is?
So the Jam is kind of a meta event where jammers jam about the jam.
And
So
That's much clearer. Thank you.
some people who are watching probably don't know what the jam is.
oh, what is a jam? Adam, what is a jam?
So jamming is a compressed format of accelerated working. So it feels like a sprint or like a hack or something like that, where you come together in a short time and you try and get things done. Unlike sprints and hacks, we have more of a balance between looking at the problem and trying to solve it. So most sprints and hacks say, that's a problem, what's the solution? We say, well, let's find a problem first of all. The global jam, which Anna is talking about, is a global event of that type, 1 weekend a year, 48 hours, a shared challenge all over the world, people physically or today digitally coming together and trying to create 700, 800 prototypes in a weekend. And it's a great learning experience. It's like a jam in music. You don't go to the jam at the jazz club because you want to record an album. You go there because you want to become a better musician or meet new collaborators or challenge yourself or get better or just have a good time. So it's a kind of a festival of doing.
Yeah, and strangely enough, going at the jam and facilitating ourselves was actually the best way to learn. So an amazing experience.
And Adam, what's your first impression of Anna?
Well, I guess it must have been the same event in terms of physically meeting you, but we met certainly electronically before because there were these great jams happening in Ljubljana and you were involved in those. And one of them really struck our attention because you made cardboard cutouts of me and Marcus, which I thought was deeply creepy. Oh no, there's a picture. Oh my goodness. Okay, that was a setup. Yeah. So suddenly, oh my God, we were so young. Suddenly these fake versions of us were all over the YouTubes, and giving interviews and stuff. And we're going, that's actually not me. So I kind of blamed you for that initially.
It was Australia's jam's fault.
It was the Australian jam's fault.
Yeah, it was their fault. Like we made a challenge for them and.
Okay. There we go. Blame the Australians.
It looks much more creepy than it is.
They're so far away, they can't get back at you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good. It seems like we've introduced the jams and some crazy jobs that you've had. It's nice that you also quite curious interests and passions there. So, I mean, we like to ask our guests and people, I mean, generally we like to discover a little bit about who they are, but you also, we love learning about what it means to be a service designer or design thinker or manager or person. And maybe you can explore a little bit more on this question of what you actually do. Maybe what you actually do in terms of like your day-to-day work or your weekly work or what actually consumes your time in a general sense and as your work as a service designer, not beating people with sticks. Yes.
Anna, want to go first?
Yeah, sure. A lot of emails, a lot of talking, a lot of communicating, searching for stuff on your different folders, different apps, different channels. No, but basically day-to-day life is, meeting with clients and trying to find out how we can help them and then co-designing processes or events or projects together with them. Spent quite a lot of time designing courses because I joined the CoCreation School. So there's a lot of facilitation also involved in training. For me, also a lot of exploration. I read a lot, I watch a lot of stuff, I experiment a lot. So yeah, some of stuff is really exciting, but there's also a lot of mundane everyday stuff that needs to be done.
Yeah. When you said co-designing, what does that look like for you?
Well, it's basically bringing the client or let's say relevant stakeholders on the journey of setting up the whole thing. So it's not like they give us something and then we lock ourselves in the room and come up with something and then bring it back, but rather we want to include them in the process, enable them, teach them the tools or use some co-creative tools so they can get input as we build something. And that way.
Very cool. Adam?
Yeah, very much the same. I mean, huge amounts of emails and stuff. I mean, I've got a sticker on my laptop which marks StJohn made, which says 95% of service design is not a workshop. Yeah. And this is really true. And by the way, colleagues, we need to stop talking about workshops if we want to be taken seriously. Yeah. We're involved in projects, we're involved in long-term goals and changes, not just a 1 hour or a 1 day or a 1 week activity. I love jamming, but you don't do service design using jams, you do jams inside service design. So let's imagine a situation where a large company comes to us and says, we would like to become more designerly or to become more innovative or whatever word they use, and we need your help. And they might say, come and do a keynote for us. Yeah, come and do a kickoff type thing. Do a jam, for example, to get attention for this change. Often we hope that evolves into a longer term relationship. So for one client recently, where we spent about 4 years working with them, helping to change their culture, we developed different types of training for different levels of experience in the organization. We help co-develop career paths for people to qualify themselves through this. We help set up events and sustaining event systems so that people would have a community to link into. So those events need to be designed and populated and so on. We wrote a book for them. We produced templates. We tried to get stuff onto their laptops. That's really, really important. Again, Mark StJohn points out really well that software is a great Trojan horse for service design. Once they have, for example, journey mapping software on their computer, they think, oh, this is real. Yeah, it's not just another workshop, another flash in the pan thing. So that means lots and lots of meetings, lots of talking to people, persuading people, finding out what's going on, and co-creating with our clients. So for example, we design training with our clients and they deliver it with us. So it's not just an outsider doing it, it's somebody from inside the company as well. They become champions, etc., etc., etc. But yeah, basically emails.
Always email.
Yeah.
That's for people that especially come to a jam, come to a service jam, get really inspired to kind of make this their profession, their career.
Yeah.
It must be hard to kind of, let them know.
Well, I love this. I love this job. Don't get me wrong. And there are a lot of workshops and stuff in there as well. And it's brilliant to, I mean, it feels a bit sort of messianic, but to actually people come to you and say, oh, I always wanted to work like this. I always wanted to do things where I could feel an impact, where I actually spend time with my customers, whether they're internal or external customers, and my users, and people light up around this, and then also working by, not by just making another PowerPoint deck, but actually going out and trying something, on the street with a user in their home, things like this. That's incredibly rewarding. But a lot of the initial work is shifting a culture towards that being acceptable, towards a non-linear, non-hierarchical way of working. And that's a very, very great challenge for many organizations.
Yeah. I think AJ and Smart might have a different opinion, but yeah, I think that's
be a workshopper.
Just about the
workshopper.
About the work part.
Yeah, but
building a new business around.
But you can use that energy that you build up in the workshop situation and that excitement to then lead to other things.
Yeah, and it's
there.
Yeah.
And it's been said many times, I'm not sure who said it first, that you don't get service design or whatever until you've done it. You actually have to experience it and feel it. And that often takes place in, fairly limited formats like workshops or jams or so on. But we're not going to change any large organization through one workshop ever.
Yeah, well said. All right. Well, talking about jams and how you approach service design and work on service design, I know that, well, you mentioned before that you're an actor, and I know that Anna does a lot of improv. And I think that's a really interesting perspective. How does that affect the way that you approach your design work or what you actually do day to day? I mean, do you creatively dance whilst you write emails, or is there some other ways that you approach?
I've got a standing desk here. That's important to me as well. I'm on like a special springy mat as well. So I can, bounce up and down all day. Anna, you first.
I don't know. I think that the skills that you practice with improv, and I guess also with theater playing, are very, very useful in everyday life, but especially in this, let's say, iterative and prototyping and adjusting kind of working. So being able to adapt, building on communication skills, learning how to work with a team, how to connect. All of those skills come very valuable, I think, in any kind of service design project.
Yeah.
So they're very transferable, and it's a very fun way to practice those skills, right? It's a very safe environment where you can get better at building on each other's ideas, using what you have, noticing more, all of those things that are basically at the core of applied improvisation.
Yeah, I think that's super, super important. I'm just putting a link in the chat to an organization that I think Anne and I both recommend very highly here, which is the Applied Improvisation Network. Yeah. And these are people who take the principles and philosophies and mindsets and even some activities from things like stage improvisation or jazz music or even sport improvisation, and they put that into non-traditional contexts like training, like design, like therapy, like conflict resolution, like management, and so on. And it's a very actually a very mature discipline. They have a fantastic conference. I recommend it. And that's a great place to get in touch with these things, or get down to your local improv group or theater group. Yeah, so I actually came to design from theater. That was my full-time job before I became a service designer, doing 220 shows a year. And when I first came to theater, then to service design, sorry, from theater, that was my tool set. So if you come, wherever you come from dictates how you think and how you work. If you come from graphic design, if you need to think, I bet you pick up a pencil. I bet you start sketching, you know.
Yeah.
If you come from product design, it might be maybe your key tool is your tablet and your stylus or whatever. Yeah, but you think using those things. I come from theater, so if I need to think, I had to get up and move.
Yeah.
So we have a space in our office, which is a large open studio, where we just have sort of walls that move around and moving furniture and so on, and we build situations. And this comes down to really very, very basic stuff. So if we're developing an app, for example, we don't start with wireframing. We start with a conversation. So one of us plays the app, one of us plays the user, and you get that conversation right first. It's called concierge prototyping or genie in a bottle prototyping. And it's so much faster than wireframing. And when that works, when that feels right, when it's the right process and also the right tone of voice, yeah, then you can think about, how does this go behind glass? And I think it's really important that we're engaging our full bodies there, not for some kind of hippie woo reason. Yeah, I'm a psychologist by training, but I'm an evidence-based psychologist, you know, the white coat guys. And we know that when we're moving, we have different ideas and a broader selection of ideas, and we are more easily able to let go. And I think letting go is the most important skill of a designer.
Yeah.
Something else that applied improvisation shows us.
I tried improv once or twice, and it was the hardest thing. And I've been a designer for a while, but I was like, oh, someone else is speaking, and I thought of something funny. Yeah. And I'm waiting for my turn to say it, and then they say something else, and their scene changes, and I was like, damn it.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That skill, if you're stuck on trying to do your thing, you actually miss making.
Absolutely. And
totally agree.
We are, one of the reasons why design is becoming more and more relevant is because we're facing more and more problems that have not been faced before. You know, the world is moving faster, it's accelerating, and that means it's impossible to plan the future in a straight line. And that means we're going to do more and more experimenting, more and more letting go, more and more multi-tracking, more and more dealing with uncertainty, which is why people like the militaries around the world are adopting design thinking in a large way, not to design their websites, but to win their wars with, yeah, because wars go through the same changes. So I think these skills are becoming incredibly important. Yeah, the United States Army, their FM50 operations manual, the standard officers training handbook when you reach a certain level, is a design thinking handbook.
Do you know links or the words for concierge prototyping? I found that was really interesting. I think a lot of other people might do. And anything on this military using...
I'll just drop a link in the chat right now.
Yeah, or just the words we should search for, because we will share a bunch of links after to everyone. And then it's really useful kind of resources.
Yeah.
Another thing I really like about improv is that you can't do it alone. You know, it's always in a group. And I think that kind of being kind to each other and, you know, it also teaches you those kind of things in group work. I see your face, Adam, you don't?
Well, this is a conversation I've many, many times. I'm kind of on your side, but Paul Z. Jackson, who's one of the big names at the Applied Improvisation Network, he points out that when someone like Keith Jarrett sits down at the piano, and just starts improvising.
Okay.
Yeah, that is
Okay.
also, I argue there's also an audience there, and he reacts to the audience as well. But maybe
All right, good point.
if he's in his studio as well. So
Good point.
but certainly it's a lot easier with somebody else because you can build on what they put in front of you.
Yeah, good point.
Okay, we're almost with time in this section. I just realized my laptop's not plugged in. Give me 2 seconds, people. But
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, always
Everything's
one
shut
thing.
down.
Improv, yay! I think we touched on this a little bit, but I also think that, Anna, you mentioned that you're, well, we saw on your profile that you're interested in neuropsychology and co-creation and stuff like this. Does that affect your design, or we were interested about this connection?
Yeah, actually, there's a connection between neuropsychology and improv and design, so to say. So yeah, I don't know, a couple of years ago, started reading books. Well, everybody knows Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow, obviously, or The Power of Habits, or Edward de Bono, who was also researched a lot about creativity and those things. And it's interesting, in the past 10 years, there's been a lot of research on neurology or neuroscience, because we have better technical equipment. And some of those things are very useful when it comes to design process. Just to give you an example, for instance, empathy is something that you can train yourself to do and actually warm up your brains to be more empathetic. And for instance, in improv, you've got activities that help you be more empathetic. And let's say, if we do some sort of those exercises before we go out on research, we might be better at doing research. So it's those sort of connections that interest me. How can we apply what science is finding out about how our brains work and use it in something really practical?
Yes,
Super interesting.
very cool. Yeah. All right, just to wrap up this section about being a design doer, I think there's this book that might be interested. This is the Service Design Thinking. No, wait, that's the old one. There's this one. I guess we should ask you a little bit about it. Where did this book come from, and why was not design thinking enough?
So this is because it was doing first. It wasn't a book, first of all. So my good friends Mark StJohn and Jakob Schneider wrote a fantastic book. This is Service Design Thinking, round about 2011, 2010. And it was an amazing snapshot of what was happening in the world at that time. And many people were involved in co-creating that book. It was a really interesting design project in itself. And a few years after that, or quite soon after that, Mark and Jakob and myself and Marcus Hormes, who are there is the first one exactly, who is my business partner and best pal. We decided to do a training course together, a training course where we take the kind of stuff that was evolving from then, it was a couple of years later now, and make that into what we thought was a really kick-ass learning experience. And we invented a 5-day school. And I said jokingly, this should be called This is Service Design Doing, because we have the community of This is Service Design Thinking. And Marcus and I coming from the jams with our doing, not talking motto. Kind of a joke title, but we thought about it more and more, and we started thinking about some of the problems with that term design thinking, where people think, they assume it takes place in people's heads, and design does not take place in our heads. It's not a flash of inspiration. It's a lot of hard work getting out there and building things and observing and talking to people. So this school ran through various iterations in various parts of the world, and we're writing a script for this, sort of a handout type thing, because we noticed that wasn't really working because it was too flexible. So the handouts became a live Google Doc which participants could take part in, and that we thought at some point, okay, this is the core for a book. So we approached some publishers, and a few were interested, and O'Reilly ended up being the publisher that we went for, because it's a very nice mainstream business publisher, not the design publisher. We wanted that. After some years of writing and rewriting and getting 300 people to help edit the manuscript and stuff like this, this book came out of that. Yeah, and thank you for those. Yes, if you're one of them. And there's a second one as well, which is the yellow one. This is Service Design Methods, which is deep dives into all the stuff we couldn't fit in the book. And what I love about this book, which is a cool thing about O'Reilly, is on the front of the book it says everything in this book is also available free online. So you don't even need to buy it, just go and download it.
O'Reilly was okay with that?
Yes, it sounds like an advertising section here. I'm sorry for that, but I was really impressed how flexible they were as a publisher. You know, we said we want to continue the conversation around this book with the community who made it, and we want to do that on our website. And they said, sure. If we want to put all the methods online on our website, sure. We want to put on the front of the book, everything in this book is available free online. I said, sure.
Wow.
That's cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Impressive. Yeah, it is good. I've stolen from there a lot.
Sorry.
Those are the methods online, exactly. So you can download them all there.
Nice.
They'll be A4 though. If you prefer a sort of horizontal view, you have to buy the book.
Okay. Well, good investment there.
That's why.
No, fantastic. No, it is a good book and something that I constantly share with people as and this one that we had last month, good services as well by
Oh yeah, Lou Down. Yeah, amazing book.
So these two are generally the books that I throw at people when
and a much faster read as well, Lou's book, because ours is
really
567 pages or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, these books are the ones I normally give to people when they ask, "What is service design?" Yeah.
Just read. Here's 500 pages.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
186, I think.
All right. Cool. So I think like a big connection between.
That's the Japanese version. It's even thicker.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's even bigger.
Yeah.
Right. So we've got to get to this section and talk a little bit about the jams. I think that's something that we've had a lot of experience with, and it's actually how we came together as a team and as friends, and in all kinds of different ways. And so many people have been brought together. And I first want to start off this section by just saying thank you. Like first and foremost, like I really, really appreciate it from all of us, the work that you did, Adam and Anna, and anyone that's also worked within the organization. And one thing that surprised me a little bit, if I don't mind saying, is that when I did the jam, I really found out that it is about the community, and the community runs the jams themselves. So I think it's, if you've ever been to one or hosted one, you really get the spirit, and it's a global sensation. I've jammed in Australia and in Berlin, and they've both been fantastic and shared the same DNA.
And if you haven't, you should.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
No one has a bad reviews after going to it. Like,
There've been a few. There've been a few jam disasters. There've been a few. Yeah.
Well,
no.
Well, I think we had such a great opening about what is a jam from you, Adam, and I think we should know what that is. If not, you can go to globaljams.com. .org, sorry.
.org.
.org, and check them out there. There's one question that is I always get. Well, we've got every single time this happens. What's with the themes? I mean, if anyone's attended a jam, they know that the theme you get at the start of the weekend is just bizarre. How do you come up with these bizarre themes, and why are they so weird?
And maybe
all the time?
explain super fast what
What's
that is,
what is
for
the
the
theme?
people who haven't seen.
So at these jams, so you've got to imagine that you hear about it in your city. Let's say you're in, I don't know, well, Derby. I see Gene Mutton is here. So there's some amazing jams in Derby in the UK. And you hear about this thing, and you go along probably on Friday evening to some location, and there's 20 or 30 strangers there, or maybe 500 if it's Saudi Arabia, or maybe 3, depends where you are. Yeah. And you're there to design something. And we ask you, don't bring a team and don't bring an idea. Yeah, let those happen at the jam, because it's about doing something new. Yeah, not just working on a thing that you've already been working on. So to help people let go of that, we kick off by having a surprise theme, which you only learn when your local jam opens. So the guys in Muslim countries or Israel, who their weekend starts further, they hear it first. Then the Kiwis hear it, then the Australians hear it, then the East Asians hear it, and so on. And it goes around the world like this. And it's always a bit abstract. So I'm gonna qualify that later on, because we now have the deep jams as well. Yeah. So for example, the theme of the very first jam was superheroes, with the super in brackets. Yeah. Superheroes. What is that? One jam theme was the sound of splashing.
Yeah.
Another jam theme was some dance steps. Yeah, some dance steps. Exactly. Yeah. So the idea behind this is twofold. Yeah. One, we think it's fun. Yeah. Two, yeah, absolutely. If we take a much more direct thing, let's say, for example, we take payment. Yeah. Suddenly the 2 or 3 people in the room who had some experience of that or some interest in that become up-leveled. Everybody else gets down-leveled. Yeah. So we immediately cause a hierarchy in the room. But if it's superheroes and you're interested in, I don't know, community development or self-defense or education or safety, these are all things that you can link to that theme and you can take it where you want to go. So it's kind of a leveler. Yeah. And it also means that probably nobody has has an idea in their pocket or a half-finished project in their pocket they can pull out. They at least have to turn it around and twist it a few times. Yeah. So that's why we do that. We now have the deep jam, yeah, which is for perhaps more advanced jammers. And in that case, you get a very precise theme. Like last year, it was ocean plastics, and you get a big fat folder full of research, which last year was sponsored by Standby, an amazing company who did all that work for us. And so you can really start on something very concrete. Yeah. But I think they're 2 different things. They're 2 very different things.
That's amazing. I really didn't know that the reasoning behind it. Abstract kind of made sense, like for people in different cultures and different countries, and it's
also this. You know, it's fascinating how people see it differently. Just a really quick story. In the first year of the GovJam, even before it was a global GovJam, it was an Australian event based in Brisbane and in Canberra. And the theme which we thought up with the Australian federal government was infectious connections. That was the theme. Yeah. And at the last minute, we were allowed to add some satellites around the world. And one of those was in Tehran. And now Australian government workers could not officially work with Iranian government workers, yeah, but they could work with us and we could work with both sides. So if you're an Australian civil servant, you go around your life looking at the world through a window which says our government is too complex. Yeah, you see everything through that window. You know, it's a small country with 3 levels of government, federal and so on. It's a bit pointless. Yeah, but that's how you believe, and you approach the theme through that. So all the Australian colleagues had projects around making government simpler, connecting departments of government, infectious connections between citizens and their data, etc., etc. Now, their Iranian colleagues, their window they look at the world through says our infrastructure is broken. Yeah. So all their projects for the same theme became things around sewage treatment, health, yeah, pandemic avoidance, literally things like that. So it's really interesting as well to see how different cultures, I don't mean just geographical, but different industries and so on, interpret the themes very differently when it's the same 2 words or the same sound of a splashing in water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was so, we had to replay multiple times this splashing in water. We were like, wait, the video is missing. Something's wrong. Let's figure it out. Just literally an audio file with the sound of a whoop.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's amazing. Well, I don't want to ramble about how amazing the jams are and how this connects, but Anna, what got you infected into the jams? And why did you're really quite now in the team and working with Adam in the co-creation school, and how did the jams impact you there?
Well, I guess I wouldn't be here if I didn't go to my first jam. Anna is also here. She was one of the first, basically the first one to bring the jams to Ljubljana, Slovenia. So she's the reason why I'm here, essentially. And it was just, we had some service design courses at the Academy of Fine Arts. But when I went to the jam, it's also something that I often hear from, let's say, service design students that go to our jams later on, is they say, I didn't know that service design could be done in this way. And it's really because it's so much focus on doing and on collaboration, on exploring and really getting your hands dirty. I think that is what got me excited. And I got one of my best friends through the jams. We co-founded an institute through jams. I think I learned the most of it through doing jams because it really is a safe space where you can experiment and try out stuff, and all of that by having fun. I mean, what else could you wish for?
Yeah,
it really is amazing.
Yeah,
fantastic. Yeah. All right. Well, sorry to break this really deep and meaningful moment, but we all know that the Berlin jams were the best. I'm sorry, Ljubljana. We obviously have contributed a lot to that ourselves. Maybe Adam and Anna, you guys can give us some statistics on who had the biggest jam or the smallest jam, or what was maybe the strangest jam you ever witnessed and experienced.
Well, I think Anna had a jam of what, 3 or 4 people? The first one? Yeah. So
there's been a jam in a car with 2 people driving between 7 other cities where jams were happening. Yeah.
That's great.
I've heard there was a jam with what, 500 people?
Riyadh, the last in 2019 in Riyadh was around 500 people. Amazing thing. I think 50 facilitators, something like this. Monster with drone cameras and really cool stuff they do there as well. Really amazing. There was a very interesting one in the Gold Coast in Australia, which was a bunch of guys in a beach hut. And forgive the accent, but they phoned me sort of on Friday and said, Adam, what's service design? And I said, look it up. And they said, all right, yeah, click. And they spent the weekend in this beach hut. We had one in a castle in Luxembourg that was like super luxurious, and they were all like sending pictures of them all jamming with a glass of champagne in the jacuzzi in the whirlpool. Pretty much everything has happened. Jamming on a bus, all kinds of things.
Oh, we jammed in a castle as well.
Did you?
Well, yeah, it was a castle, it used to be, but yeah.
Cool. There was a gov jam in the office of the Prime Minister in France, in the Champs-Elysees, and they don't give you the Wi-Fi password. It's weird. And you can't put post-its on the wall either, because they're all priceless Louis XV paneling and stuff like this.
Oh my gosh.
What's a jam with that? Post-its on the wall.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's fantastic. Oh wow, I didn't know about the Paris one.
And here's a really cool one. A few years ago, during I think it must have been 2017 or 2018, I guess, during the height of the refugee crisis, especially affecting Syria, the Beirut jammers, they moved their jam from Beirut to a border town, and they opened the doors and they jammed with refugees.
Oh wow.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
I've got a question here. Where is a place you would like to jam next?
In space.
In space?
Okay. I thought you were going to say Spain.
In space. In
Spain. We had this idea of doing it on a boat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still excited about it. Anna, I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
When the COVID is over, I want to do one on a boat.
So here's the fun thing about this, because this sounds like a sort of a silly question, but it's or a silly answer, but it's actually very interesting, because if you were to jam in space, you have a problem, because everything becomes assumption based. How can you get out of the building and talk to people? How can you challenge your ideas with passers-by and so on? So I think the best jam locations is almost like high street locations. Like the Gov Jam headquarters in Dundee a few years ago was in a disused shop, and you could literally open the door, and 1 meter outside the door there was people walking past. Can you come and look at our prototype, please? Can I talk to you about this? And that's really, really important. And this is a big thing, by the way, for service design generally, to sort of open up the conversation a bit again. One of the things that it's really hard for organizations to accept, and teams in organizations, is that the answer is probably not in your team. It doesn't matter how creative you get, it doesn't matter how smart you are, you don't know enough, and you are laden down by assumptions. So getting people to go out and be curious and then build things and be humble about them, this is a really important trick, which you can also learn at something like a jam. Sorry, I got serious there for a moment. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, it's very true. Very true. Very true.
So here's a little bit of less seriousness.
Oh, rubber chicken.
Amazing.
Got a little bit too serious.
Yeah.
What's the story with the chicken, though?
Yeah, you have to.
What's the thing with the chicken?
Why do you have this rubber chicken?
Yeah.
Oh my.
There are lots of rubber chickens at the jam. I mean, if you Google service design rubber chickens, you'll find hundreds of pictures. And in fact, at a conference a few years ago, a design conference in Scotland, they bought a rubber chicken for every delegate at the conference. I am told.
It's like
so
boxes of rubber chicken.
People ask me what's with rubber chickens, because I introduced them, they're my fault. And I've been using rubber chickens in my work for a long time before the jam. And it's a very complicated answer, and it's more important that people say what the rubber chicken means to them. You know, what is your, or rubber camel as it is in Dubai, or rubber kangaroo in Australia, or whatever it is. Yeah. What does it mean to you? It interests me because I come from psychology. I'm interested in mindsets, which are sets of responses that we have to certain stimuli, and we tend to change our mindset with the physical situation that we're in. So two people in suits at a big walnut table, you know, one of them can say, that wasn't the best idea I've heard this year. And that's real fighting talk. You know, the same two people down the pub, one can say, oh, you're an idiot sometimes. And that's fine. Yeah, because the mindsets change with the context. So what does it do to someone in a business or commercial or government or whatever environment when there's a rubber chicken on the conference table? What mindset does that stimulate? Yeah. And I'm interested in sort of messing with people in that way, taking the problem seriously, but not taking yourself too seriously. And it's very hard to take yourself seriously if you're carrying a rubber chicken. But that's just one answer of 100.
I think that's a pretty good answer.
Yep.
I would say. Yeah.
Yep.
Very Australian answer. Don't take yourself too seriously.
Exactly.
Also, your accent before He's from Sydney.
Yeah.
Well, New South Wales. I'm Victoria, so the accent was actually great for.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Very good.
I am humble.
I'm talking about stereotypes and Australians being very laid back. You know, there's jams all around the world. Is there some stereotypes that you can definitely tell which jam is from where?
Anna, what have
As
you
a
seen?
last question.
Well, I've heard that the European are very agency-led, which I could say guilty.
Yeah.
I've heard, and this is something I would assume, is that South America is just party, party, party.
Yeah, yeah.
I've seen that too. That is.
We've had live drummers.
It's something you would
in South America.
expect. A lot of dancing, a lot of loud music, that kind of stuff. Again, yeah, with North America, very corporate.
Yeah, polo shirts. Also
polo shirts.
This is sweeping generalizations, by the way. Of course, there's massive variations. Yeah.
And we don't go clubbing every jam in Berlin, but some of them we do.
And what I've heard about Asia, they're very academic.
Often, yeah.
Often
Linked to universities, lecture. That's changing a bit. And recently we had the big explosion of jams in China. There were 40 at the last jam. And they came through a Chinese sort of service design initiative around China Bridge. Kathy Huang, who set up the first jams in Shanghai, pushed that off. So that's changing a bit. But yeah, they're all different. Every jam is different.
Yeah. Australians are also quite university as well. So it's probably...
Yeah, there have been some. Yeah, certainly. And there was that famous beach hut. You know, the beach hut in the
also in my university.
And an ice bath full of stubbies, you know, that sort of thing.
All right, so we're going to move on to our final section, and that was I think enough of the jams, but also awesome work. And if you haven't been to a jam, we strongly recommend that. If you don't have a jam in your city, start one. If you do, join it. If you do a second time, run it. If you do a third time, go a jam to jam the jam and get involved. It's amazing. And
just because of this current climate that we're in doesn't mean that the jams don't run.
No, we've got one coming up in 1 week. It's going to be quite small. And because of COVID, we've kind of spread it out a bit. So normally we're really dogmatic that the jam takes place on these dates or you're not part of the jam. But this year it's not been realistic. So the Gov Jam this year, which is my favorite jam actually, the Global Gov Jam, which is about public services, is sort of spread across November and December. We're asking folks to concentrate in the early part of November if possible. Very few can, to be honest. So it's become like a festival over like 8 weeks, and you choose your 48 hours in there, and you can even split them up if you want to now. We're trying experiments. We're taking COVID as an opportunity to try something different. So check out globaljams.org, and if you click on Next Jam button, you can find out about the Gov Jam coming up and the Service Jam that's coming up in March.
The link is in the chat. Just a few messages.
I think also with like, well, I take it as like, how could you plan a jam? Like, how can you get involved? And
and one more great example, if you go online and you Google EduJam UK, the guys just released today an amazing video of the incredible energy and professionalism and fun they had in their purely online jam, which they ran a few weeks ago. So, I mean, that's an amazing team. basically in the UK, but lots of other folks involved. And that shows, we've seen this at the other jams as well, that online jams can also be exciting, funny, moving, and useful.
Yeah. And I think also, like, if you go on Facebook, there's a global jam community. And if you just sign in and ask people for help, I mean, the jam family is very open and willing to, the jamily.
They're like the opposite of a cult, where they just welcome everyone and let everyone leave.
Yeah.
But I would say, like, I wrote an article on how to do design sprints online, but there is such an opportunity to also bring jams in an international sense, or around interest communities. And there's a bicycle jam and different jams on different things, and a game jam as well. And you can use Miro or Mural, any of these kind of tools that help you also have a digital space to meet in. And I would strongly encourage you to do that.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
We're going to move on. Going to be hard and diligent on time.
Questions. Just a reminder for questions, for people, if you're thinking of things and you want to ask questions, keep putting them in the chat now. Is that the right thing to say?
Yes, that is right.
I'm trying to answer a few as we go along. So if I look to the one side, it's because I'm not actually looking at Facebook. I'm actually
literally at pre-consultation time with Adam and St. John Lawrence and Anna right now. So just ask anything.
She's a smart one.
All right. So I guess the last thing that, I mean, this is a community, well, mostly of service designers or designers in general, or people at least interested in design. And I guess it's what we wanted to do is pick your brain a little bit about the community that you work in, what you do, teaching, education, co-creating, this kind of thing. And maybe we can start with this one. I'll go with Anna first. What do you think service designers don't really realize, or where do you think we should kind of look at ourselves and reflect on, or where can we change to? What do you think about that?
I think there are two things that I'm sort of noticing. The first one is that service designers often don't have any background or any, well, I'm not going to say any, but let's say little understanding of business. And I think that makes it more difficult to work with other stakeholders or with other organizations in a service design project. And then the second thing I'm noticing, talking to some people that, let's say, stumbled upon service design in the past year or 2 years, and when the way they apply service design is applying the process or just the methods to whatever they have. So it's as if I'm going to use this method and then it's going to work. So it's really focused around methods or processes. And it's not so much thinking about what do I need in this particular moment for this particular situation, for this particular problem, and which tools can I use, right? So it's not like a copy and paste thing that often seems like, but it's more of a, how do I approach something, right? Is how do I think about it? Who do I include? Those things that maybe some people would say is like common sense, even so, you know, not even necessarily service design. Service design just maybe offers some things that designers use in their process that can be helpful, let's say because of visualization or bringing everybody together on a certain method or tool, but there's no recipe. And sometimes it feels that some people just want to copy paste and just, okay, now it's going to work. It's not that simple.
Do you have, without kind of revealing any person or project, do you have a kind of example where this thing happened and then I would have, if I would copy and paste, I would have done this, but actually I realized this needed to happen? Do you have any kind of? Yeah.
So I was helping a friend and with a friend in her organization. And then I said, okay, show me what you got. And then she shows me, oh, I have all these personas and I have this customer journey map and I have this stakeholder map. And then the more we went through on the conversation, we realized that the problem that she thought that they have was actually lying way somewhere else, you know? So they were just applying, thinking, okay, if we do now 5 personas and we roll out our journey map, magic is going to happen. All of a sudden, the problem will be saved.
Yeah.
But there was no sort of exploration or thinking about, or, you know, digging deep. What is it that we're solving? Why is this the way it is? What's the thing behind it?
Yeah.
And it's that kind of thinking that I think often is missing.
Yeah.
Here you go, bum.
Yeah.
I haven't got much to add to that. I think Anna said it perfectly. There is, and also some schools are guilty here at churning out people who have a very dogmatic approach. You do these things in this order and that will work every time, and it never does. There are fantastic service design projects with no journey maps. There are fantastic projects without a post-it, without a persona.
What?
You know, all these, yes, all these things are common tools, but you don't need them every time. And as Anna said, it's a question of looking at what you do need. And I think, I mean, Mark StJohn, mentioning him again, name dropping my friend, but has a great talk online called "A Journey Map is Not a Deliverable." Yeah, and it isn't. This is a tool. It's a tool which you can use to communicate within the group. You can use it to record information, to organize your data, to even manage projects with journey map operations through the organization. But in itself, it achieves nothing.
Yeah.
The end goal of a service designer is an ongoing, self-sustaining service or product, whatever you call these things that we make. Yeah, that is when you're done. And anything, you might not be in charge of that whole process, but that's what you're working towards. And that workshop that you might have been engaged to organize is part of a larger project. And that project is part of a larger change in an organization. You need to be aware of that the whole time when you're making decisions in your project of how many pens to hand out. You know, and that's really important in that moment. When you're facilitating a workshop, how many pens you hand out will change the literally will change the collaboration patterns. But
you give them, what you give them to
yeah, sure. I mean, it makes a difference if you give a group one Sharpie or one each. Yeah.
And I just want to do a disclaimer. I was one of those people that just applied a tool to something. So just saying that, I mean, maybe that's the way you start, and then you realize, and then you have to go through, you know, realizing that it's not a copy and paste thing.
You need to
I was
learn
guilty
your
as well. Sorry?
Yeah, you need to learn your tools. You know, a carpenter, a joiner has to learn how to use her hammer, how to use her saw, how to use her drill, how to use wood glazes and glues and all these kind of things. Yeah, but carpentry is not nails in the same way that service design is not post-its.
Yeah, and you build the experience by using the tools, and then you're able to decide what you need after. Exactly,
and you steal them from somewhere else. And every single tool of service design is stolen from somewhere else. They come from marketing, they come from brand, they come from theater, they come from anywhere. Yeah. And that's great because we took the ones that are approachable, which make good boundary objects, so different people at different levels of experience can work with them and not get hung up in the tool. Yeah, it's not rocket science. But then again, a piano also only has 8 notes. You know, it's still really, really hard to play it well. 12. It's really hard to play it well. Yeah.
Practice.
Yeah.
It's all gone quiet. We've broken the conversation. Broken the conversation. Everybody talk among yourselves while the SDD Berlin team does what happens
next. Are there
next.
any questions in the chat?
There are no questions, and we haven't been answered already.
So please, if you.
Yeah.
I'm curious what Susan wrote. Yeah.
I think it's the
law enforcement. Tools from law enforcement. Tell us more.
Are there?
Susan, you're on the spot now. Sorry.
That was more in response to backgrounds that people are coming from.
Yes.
So I've seen people from law enforcement, bakers, interior designers, all crossing over into service design and user experience.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Great example.
Yeah.
So sorry, go on.
Because it's fundamentally about people.
Yeah. Wow.
Criminal lawyer. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Excellent. I'm a criminal.
You guys could work together.
Collaborate. Co-create.
I'm a lawyer. Sorry, I'm a lawyer.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
That's a
But not a designer, but a lawyer now. Yeah.
I love
That's cool.
the people. Fantastic. Maybe we should add that to the
Yes.
add to the introduction.
Yeah.
cool.
Cool. So maybe we've answered this one. I was going to ask you a little bit about what stretched you about service designers or not, but and what do we get wrong? But I think like I'm interested when because now we've got all of this stuff about like different industries and stuff like that. How do you break? I feel like some industries are very traditional and some are very open and some are very unique and different and stuff like this. And I remember actually one time, Adam, you saying like, I would love to see a jam team with 3 lawyers doing a jam as opposed to a lawyer and different roles and how they would jam differently and jam. How do you find applying service design? I'm sure you have such a track record, or can you tell us a story about different industries and how you've applied service design to these very different and obscure industries and how that changes what you do? Or maybe Anna as well.
I think there are some places where if you go in, as Anna described before, with your standard approach, it is easier than in other places, yeah, with a standard approach. But if you go in with a tailored approach, then I think every industry becomes equally difficult or easy. And yeah, it's a different working environment. I'm thinking of a jam team that I once worked with where there was a farmer, a government official, an educator, a design person, and a Australian Special Forces military person, yeah, who weren't allowed to photograph, yeah, and they were so interesting how they responded to a question, you know, or how they responded to a goal setting thing, you know, someone would ask, what are the parameters, you know, the Special Forces guy would just say, he would repeat the task back to you and say, did you understand? You say, yes, and you go away and figure it out, you know. Is that the mission? Yeah, that's the mission. Okay, I'll figure it out. Yeah, but other ones would question and so on. So you're going to get that difference of atmosphere. Yeah, but when you're going in, I think it's really important that the application of service design is a service design challenge.
Yeah,
that you have to frame it in a way that it makes sense to those people. That can be as simple as putting relevant information on the journey maps. If you're dealing with lawyers, your journey map, every lane at the bottom has what is our legal liability in this step, which laws, which paragraphs are relevant here, yeah, what is the level of risk. Yeah, dealing with technologists, there'll be another set of information in there. But if you shape things carefully this way, then I think it's equally hard or difficult anywhere, and it comes down to a question of which people I've got in front of me.
Yeah,
well, you say, yeah, mentioning who's in front of you, I think that within every industry, it's about the exact person that you're working with. So you might have, let's say, the public sector. I had a lot of experience working with the public sector, and there's this prejudice or cliche that they don't want to change anything, that they just don't care. They are on their payrolls. But actually, some of the most motivated, amazing, forward people were from the public sector. So I wouldn't say a sector per se. It's about individuals. It's about the person that you work with. And in that situation, it depends where they come from. Because if it's somebody, we were approached by an HR from a big bank saying, oh, we heard about design thinking. We want to do a workshop. And then you ask why? Well, because we think it's cool, you know? And then with that kind of person, it's, yeah, as Adam said, you frame it differently, you approach differently. Maybe you disagree with how they are doing because they're doing it as a workshop, like Adam said earlier. But I think it really depends on the person that you're working with, not so much on the industry, because in every industry you find amazing people curious, wanting to do, you know, some positive change in their organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes you have to speak more loudly. I'm thinking about the first GovJam again. And I remember that we knew that the minister assisting, so the deputy minister for industry, was going to come to this. That's big news, especially in Canberra. You know, in Canberra, when a minister's in the building, the whole building goes quiet. You know, it's like when Darth Vader lands on the Death Star. Everyone stands up straighter. Yeah, and there was a thought that we should ask the minister, Kate Lundy was her name, to do something a bit special at the start of the jam, to sort of set a signal. Yeah, it was in this amazing location, this little cathedral-like thing called the Inspire Centre in Canberra, a beautiful innovation space. But my colleagues there from Australian government said, well, I can't talk to her. I have to talk to my boss, to talk to their boss, to ask her boss, to ask her boss, to ask her. Yeah, because it doesn't happen. In fact, we couldn't tell people that she was coming because they would have withdrawn people from the jam because they weren't of a high enough level to talk to a minister. So I said, well, I can ask her. I don't even live here. All they can do is throw me out. I've already got paid, you know.
Yeah.
So I said, well, so what do I call her? They said, you call her Honourable Minister. Okay, that's okay. So I went over and I said, excuse me, Honourable Minister Lundy. You know, it's a jam, blah, 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 a bit different, blah, blah, blah. And of course she said, of course, what do you want me to do? Yeah, of course she said that. Yeah. So the GovJam in Australia started off in this amazing cathedral-like space with 200 civil servants in suits sitting in perfect rows. It started with her, and she's a big, tall lady with long, dark hair, and she had a long black leather coat on. And we had 12 guys dressed as Star Wars stormtroopers, just because you do, yeah. So she walked up, flanked by stormtroopers, through the middle of this room, yeah. Didn't mention the stormtroopers, but they lined up on stage behind her. Yeah. She acknowledged the ancestral land. She said, "This is a bit different. Enjoy your GovJam." Yeah, and everybody saw a really strong signal in that.
Yeah,
and about half the people in the room went kind of, yeah, which is okay, but they stayed. Yeah. 3 just walked out, which was fine because they would have hated it.
Yeah.
And about the other half went, yes.
Yeah.
Permission.
A permission has been given. Yeah. And that's what things like jams or special spaces in projects, or the safe space that you can build around a service design practice in an organization, can give people permission to be complete humans.
Yeah.
And that is the most important thing that we have to do, I think.
Can I just second that, because we also started working with the government because of the jam, because we had the Ministry of Public Administration come to the jam, seeing how we did stuff, and we started collaborating. So 100% real.
Yeah. Just also +1 to that. It's so important to find the space, but also to create that safety for people to be willing to just do what needs to be done. And it's a lot of our role to be there and to show them that that will help, that will be important, and just let them be. So totally +1 to that. My
best experience of that was doing with the top 100 finance people in telecom. So telecom's a big German, 100,000 employees, whatever. And we did our workshop in Phantasialand, which was a roller coaster theme park. So I think that was also great.
Cool.
And I think that's a good role of designers and service designers to facilitate that, if anything else.
And to play goof and to be over the top, so they are meeting you in the middle.
Yeah,
exactly.
Sometimes, but there's a challenge around that as well, isn't there? Because if you take people to some amazing off-site location, and we know that does open people up. It lifts them. Yeah, you can see it happening. It's amazing. But what happens when they come back?
Yeah.
When they come back to a grey desk. Yeah. So I'm quite ambivalent about these sort of off-sites and fancy locations and stuff like that, because service design has to work at every ordinary desk.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, it's no use to us. Yeah. So I'm very interested in how do we make the connection then to bring back that mindset. You know, is it with a kit? Is it with a trolley of equipment? What is it? Yeah, that brings that sort of Phantasialand mindset back into my boring grey desk in my boring grey cubicle.
Yeah.
Just one thing to that. I think you were saying it before. It's the unsexy part of the job of staying after the fun part.
Yeah. It's like not taking the walk of shame, but staying. Right. But I think that goes on to my next question, which is how do you have the most impact as a designer, right? And I think like that's that's probably the answer to that. Yeah, it was just staying, like doing the hard work and stuff like this.
Cool.
Before we move on to the next segment, I just want to jump into this question from Ivan, which kind of leads us to the wrap up of this great conversation that we've had, which is starting from day one, how do you become a service designer nowadays with all different tools spread around? What is your tip for becoming a service designer these days? Maybe that's a great question. I mean, first buy a rubber chicken. Second,
I'm going to steal Sarah Drummond's tip, which she said some years ago now, and I think it's brilliant. She says, "Get a job and do service design." Yeah, you don't have to have service designer on your card. You don't have to have a job. You can do it in your hobby club, in your place of worship, whatever, in your community. You can be a service designer. We're at the stage now where the people in the profession seem to be a mix of people who have some kind of training in this. Yeah, they've done a master's, they've gone to Milan, they've gone to Cologne, they've gone to Savannah, one of these great schools, and they've got that training. And people who come in sideways, like me, from theatre or from management or from whatever else. Yeah, and so there is an opportunity to come in from almost anywhere. But I think the important thing is you don't have to have that on your business card to do it. Challenge your assumptions, challenge your ideas, work iteratively, doing whatever you're doing, and you're a service designer.
Yeah, include people in your project.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
Like you said before, there's all these different names. Actually, if someone asks me how long have I been in service design, I just give like all the years of my work, because I was called a lot of different things, but I was doing service design the whole time.
And I think it's often also during the jams, or when I don't know, we have these events, facilitation backstage and all these other events, and you talk about service design, and then there are people, oh, but I am a service designer, you know? So there are a lot of people that don't identify themselves as service designers, but they do exactly the same thing.
Yeah. I agree. I concur. Okay, so we're almost at the end of this conversation, and we're going to moderate, and we have some sushi here, which we would like to eat.
Where's my sushi? Come on, no one told me there was going to be sushi.
So we're going to wrap this up in a short time, but it has been an absolute honor. But before we do that, I have two questions, and one is a funny question, but I think as a service designer, and probably not self-proclaimed service designer, but what is the most overused and least understood service design tool? Anna?
Overused.
I'm thinking overused and under.
And least understood, or least understood, or most overused.
I have one if you want me to go first.
And go, please.
So I don't want to put this tool down, but I think people don't understand its power, which is journey mapping. Yeah. Now, people are already fixated on journey mapping for the wrong reasons, because I think it's an end goal in itself, and there are agencies that offer only journey mapping. It's useful enough, yeah, but it's not the end goal. But what people don't realize is that you can actually use journey maps as a management tool. And one of the most important developments that I've seen in the last few years is what's called journey map ops. You can Google that, yeah. And it's the idea that you have nesting hierarchies of journey maps, because journey maps are not all the same. Some journey maps are just good for a quick workshop. Yeah, and then you never look at them again. Yeah, other ones are used to manage a whole segment of your customer experience, or onboarding or something like that, or the whole life cycle map and so on. So you have these sort of levels of journey maps in an organization, and managing them, having people responsible for different sub experiences, which are represented by a journey map, coming together in journey councils to say, okay, what are we actually working on? Are we working on the same experience? Oh crap, yeah, which happens all the time. This is really, really important. So understanding that a journey map is not just a workshop scribble, and it's not just a thing hanging on the wall in the C-suite, hopefully with a best before date. Yeah, it's not just those things. It's a whole structure in between them. And that is really, really crucial, because we're trying to organize. If we accept this faster working pace, this agile with a small a approach to working that's coming along, how do we manage hundreds of agile teams in a large organization? How do you do that? It's incredibly difficult. And something like journey map operations can be one way to look at that. Check it out.
I'm gonna continue with the second most popular tool. It's personas. Because I see you come into organization and we've got all of these personas, we're done. We're user-centered because we have personas. And I think they're misused because it feels like a lot, oftentimes people just fill it out and we're done. Yeah. And it's there on the wall and we've got 5 perfectly done personas. Not to mention a lot of them are assumption based. So, oh yeah, we know our users, we think this kind of, but I think in general, with all the tools, at least in my experience with service design tools, it's not about the tool, it's about the conversations that happen when you're using the tool. And it's about how it changes over time, right? Because persona today, especially in this rapid changing world, is not going to be even in 2 or 3 years, right? So I think it's this, again, using it as a tool, using it as a conversation starter, using it as a focal point that is often missing.
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. You have focused on a post-it note, Adam.
That's his
Are you trying to say something here?
Are you gonna show how
you promised you said we should talk about getting post-its right, so here it is again. Right. Yeah, if you're one of these people who has been doing post-its wrong and pulling them off up the page, that's horrible. Look at that horrible curve on that post-it. Don't do that ever again. Yeah, that's just shocking. It's a misuse of your post-it. It won't stay on the wall, it will fall off. Instead of this is my post-it cam. This is specifically my post-it cam right here. Yeah. If you're going to pull a post-it, put your thumb underneath it and pull it down the block, and now it's a perfectly flat, beautiful post-it.
I wish we could slow-mo that.
Let's do it again. Slow motion. Pull it. I'll go from the side. Pull it down the block, and it's perfectly flat.
I thought the answer was sideways.
Well, you can go sideways, but if you go sideways, you get one corner which still stands up, don't you?
Okay.
True. So it's better than nothing, but it's the best one is the snap down the page. There you go. Life changing. Life changing.
Here.
Yes.
Yeah. There you go.
Wow.
Thank you for educating me.
Don't do it, Anna.
It's like we could just tie you down to a chair and just do this in front of you, and it would be like slow torture.
God.
Okay, I love that you have a post-it note cam.
I do.
My favorite thing is also. All right. So, all right, we're going to wrap up with this question, and then we'll call it a night. In summary, in 2 sentences or 3 sentences, in a very short paragraph, maybe. In summary, if you could go back and tell yourself one thing as a young, actor and factory worker that puts soap in magazines, what would it be, and how do you think it would set you up for success in your role today?
Go on, Adam.
I'm actually working on a presentation called 10 Things I Wish I'd Known About Service Design When I Started. I'm currently at 13. Yeah, so I'm trying to reduce that. This is the bit which I often find myself really sort of trying to get across to people in organizations, and that is ideas are the least important part. Whoa. Stop obsessing about ideas. Talk about what have we learned, what are the insights that we have, and what are we trying, what are the experiments that we have. So talk about research and prototyping. Don't worry about ideas, that's trivial, that will take care of itself. And the best ideas happen anyway when you're researching and prototyping.
Is that a really secret kind of presentation you're working on, or do you reckon you could send us the list of 13 things to share with our audience? Just the headlines. Just the headlines.
I will consider that, because as I got no sushi.
Exactly, I was just want to say, if you provide sushi.
All right.
Maybe I can. Let me have a look, see if I can find it.
Don't obsess about ideas. I love that one.
Just be like top 3 or something, because that would be really useful.
Anna?
Thanks.
No, it's going to be very, very boring, but I'm going to say listen more. Listen.
Oh, very good.
I don't know. I think if I would have listened more, I would have noticed some of the things that I didn't, or it's just, slow down, listen.
Yeah. It's almost that those two seem very related. Like,
Yeah.
not being like attached to your own amazing ideas and just listen to what other people
Yeah.
are saying. Yeah, they were two really great ones.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Oh wow, we actually got them.
Woo!
Oh my gosh.
Oh, amazing.
Wow, that is
You
an
didn't-
SDD Berlin
You
exclusive.
didn't think
Woo!
Thank you.
You heard it first here. And I think on that bombshell.
Yeah,
thank you. No, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you guys here. Thank you for all the work you've done for the jams, for the community at large, and for pioneering service design. It's been an absolute pleasure to have both of you here, and we're absolutely blessed. And yeah, it's been amazing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks everyone who's listening. Thank you for being patient and listening to us. I hope some of it was useful. I want to thank Anna for agreeing to also come along and be part of this with me, because it's been a great pleasure working with her for the last few months, and I'm looking forward to continuing it.
Yeah, if they want to find out more about you, where should they go?
Well, the thing we have in common is CoCreation School. Shall we give them that one,
Oh,
Anna?
yes, come to Facilitation Backstage.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Ooh. Well, basically, in March, when we started working online and doing all these workshops, we realized that there's no space for casual conversations. You know, when you're in an event or somewhere, there's between lunch or you're getting on a cigarette or whatever, where you have these casual conversations. So we thought we might do this online events space where basically we just come and hang out and talk about the stuff that we're interested in. It's called Facilitation Backstage. We do it twice a month since April, on the 10th every month and on the 18th. On the 10th is a more Asia-friendly time slot because it's at 10 a.m. And then on the 18th, it's at 1800 with at 6 p.m. Paris time, which is more appropriate for the Americas. So if you want to meet us and just chat, come join us, the Facilitation Backstage. It's free, it's for everyone. Even if you're not in design, just come join us. Let's hang out.
It's really cool.
Very
great to see you there.
Yeah.
That is something that you do miss, and I think in these times especially, it's very amazing. So thank you. All right, cool. So we have two more things to share just before we end up doing this, and time for the community to participate. So woo, thank you. All right, done enough of that self-love. And so next up for us in the SDG Berlin community, we have decided to make it a bit more friendly for the Singapore and Asian community. And we have Design Ethics, the Superpower of Designers, coming up, which is a joint event between ourselves in Berlin and the SDD team in Singapore. And we have Randy Hunt and Clive K. Lavery, who is sharing. So Clive is the representative from Berlin, who's a good friend of all of ours, I would say, and a fantastic speaker. And he does also, one of my favorite talks is the UX of the toilet, which is really, really funny.
Brilliant.
And Randy Hunt is a great thinker and designer, and also lead designer at Grab, which is the competitor of Uber in Asia. And so it's a huge company. Yeah. And really, really great organization. So that's going to be a very, very interesting topic, which I think is very, very relevant for today. And I'm sure it will be just as entertaining as this one was. But if you have anything to announce, I'm going to count to like 30 or 10 or something. If you want to announce an event or something that's coming up, or if you need a job, then you put your hand up. Put your hand up, and I will give you the spotlight.
The talking stick.
The talking stick.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Did someone's?
Someone there.
Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
Oh.
You're hijacking.
Yeah, looking for some people to help us with social media during the Global Gov Jam. It's really low work level, only a few jams happening, so it could be really fun to have someone help us out with that.
Fantastic.
We can put that in the
voluntary thing. Yeah, no money. Sorry.
Email as well.
Yeah. Anyone else? Nope. Okay. All right. And then finally, you can check us out at sddberlin.com to find out more information about the next event, or about the event that's coming up in December. Yeah, that should be some sort of Christmassy kind of themed event in December.